there are those names you hear, Steve, sometimes, the deaths of certain people that you will always kind of remember where you were. And something like that happened Friday afternoon, and that's when the news broke that Hulk Hogan had passed away, age 71, I want to say.
Yep, cardiac arrest.
Right. And, also known as Terry Bollea, and had lived and you were just saying before we came on, I don't disagree with you. He may have been the biggest star from Tampa Bay. There's been a lot of sports stars and actors and such, but for a guy that had the kind of national appeal he had, I mean, how many guys are campaigning on a trail, for Donald Trump, right, and that sort of thing. But I was not. I'll be completely honest with you. Have never really cared for, don't actually understand the appeal to the whole WWE or whatever, letters they have these days. Just wasn't into it. Didn't play with the figurines, didn't really wrestle my friends, like that kind of thing. Didn't jump off of some top rope somewhere and try to drive my elbow into the ground. But I appreciated it because as a kid, as a Ute, growing up in Tampa, and this goes way back before you were born, but I can remember the Fort Hesterly Armory there. Wrestling was a big thing in Tampa, obviously, and they had Gordon Soley. I don't know if you know that name, but he was a famous wrestling broadcaster, from the Fort Hesterly Army, Gordon Soley here, and he had a distinct voice. And so, it was on, like, I would watch sometimes, and I had friends that were really into it. And then, of course, when it blew up, with Hulk and Ric Flair and, just all these guys that came along. But I didn't follow it. I followed him, though. I followed him because he was in Tampa, the good and plenty of bad as well. But my only Hulk story, and it was somewhat endearing, and it just shows that, people are people. I got on a flight, and I was in probably, it wasn't first class, I can tell you that. But there was a time when we could get upgraded quite a bit, and the airlines would do that if you were a frequent flyer. I don't think I was in first class. I think I was in a bulkhead, behind the bulkhead seat. They were in the bulkhead seat in front of me. It was Hulk and his daughter, who I know you've met, and she was, well, like, probably into her young 20, early 20s or something. I don't know where they were going to, or they're going to where I was going to, or we were coming home. I can't remember. It was a fairly long flight. But what struck me was, and he wasn't really approached that much, interestingly, but a few people obviously recognized him. But during the flight, the thing that struck me is that he was a dad. He was just, I heard the conversations, and it may have been the time when she was pursuing a music career or not. I can't remember. But, like, he was very patient, very quiet, supportive. Just, you could tell they were very close, like the way I am with my daughters. And that just kind of, like, endeared him to me, like, and all the other stuff. I don't really know what went on, and some of it's pretty tawdry. I don't really want to discuss it, but for the most part, like, that will stick with me, is that, he loved his kids, and they got, one of them had a tragic accident where someone was killed, and I remember that story went on for quite some time. But that's literally, can't tell you who he beat, can't tell you, when he took down Andre the Giant, and where that happened, and what the heel turn was, and all those things that you hear about him. But I do remember him just being a dad on an airplane ride home.
Well, I saw him being a dad as well. It was it would have been 2003. So she was, I want to say she was like 16 at the time, probably in that range, just trying to make it in the music career. And so we were at a programming conference. I worked for Clear Channel Radio at the time. And so it was a bunch of programmers from the Southeast region together. And they brought a bunch of young artists, up-and-coming artists in to perform and to schmooze. And you're trying to hope that they'll add your record and like you. So Hulk was there supporting Brooke. So she performed, and there were several. Sugarland was one of the acts there as well. They ended up making it really big. But he was there schmoozing all the program directors and talking to people, and couldn't be nicer. But then again, he's trying to get his daughter's record added
Yeah,
and helping
sure.
her in the career, so that's all
Yeah,
part of it as well. But
right.
but he was trying to take a back seat as much as possible, but also knowing my personality and my who I am can help her. So I'll try, but he wasn't trying to dominate. Like, he was trying to push her forward, but also knowing that, hey, these are a lot of guys that probably watched me growing up, and maybe some of them are still wrestling fans. Like, I'll do whatever I can to help her. So
Yeah, the last time I saw him, Bruce Arians, does his golf thing every year, and that wasn't this last one; it was the one before, but so it would have been about 2 years ago. He was at the Hard Rock where Bruce did it, and the Hulk got up there and auctioned off one of his belts. It was the weirdest thing. It was like, "You're 10,000," and they got quite a bit of money for it, whatever it was. And I think there was a chair that he threw in a ring. I don't know. But he had the belt, helping out Bruce Arians, the Arians Foundation. So I thought that was pretty cool. But yeah, it's 71 to go quickly like that, or cardiac arrest is really tough. But then your time is your time, I guess, on this earth, and we never know. We're really not hour to hour or day to day. We're second to second, and so that's just, I have these reminders as I age, and a good number of my friends that have passed away way too young. To me, 71 seems extremely young. And I'm not that old. I'm not as old as Terry was, but I know it's not that far in the distance either. And it's just like, my dad died at 74. Like, it's just way too soon. So it's always sad. And yet, you know, sometimes you also think, well, would you rather a long illness where you suffer too? You know what I mean? Like, there's all kinds of different thoughts that go through your head when something like that happens. But it's the biggest thing is it's sad for his family, sad for his kids, and he made a lot of people smile. He made a lot of people happy. He was in the entertainment business, and that dude knew how to entertain people. He just did. All right, so let's talk a little Buccaneer football. I was out there day 2 of training camp, and the takeaway is that I think that the offense pushed back a little bit more, but the defense, I think, still won the day. And if you're a Bucks fan, it's sort of the way it goes. You have mixed emotions about stuff like that, but I'll tell you what's showing up, and I kind of expected it to. And again, these guys aren't in pads. There's nothing going on with that, and so you can't really judge everything, right? Because offensive line can't protect as well. You got pressure on the quarterback. The defensive line can't hit the quarterback. They're out there in shorts and running around. But they have really improved this secondary. We saw Winfield. Old Tweez showed up the day before and got Mayfield twice in 2 plays. And yesterday it was, or today it was very similar. Not that Baker got intercepted as much, but you certainly see the talent that's out there at the cornerback position, and a guy like Benjamin Morrison is going to make this team so much better. Benjamin Morrison will be very close, if not win a starting job on this team. And that's saying something for a rookie, in his second round now. His hip, he had hip surgery. He would have been a first round pick. He says today, we talked to him, that it's completely healed. He's had taken some tough falls on the hip in OTAs. There was one particular play, he went really high with Emeka Ibuka, and they both came down in a heap. And he made the play, got the ball out, but it was like, okay, it was like 2 fighters, who's going to get up first, kind of a Rocky and Apollo Creed thing. But they both did get up, and man, he's the real deal. Like, you just watch this guy. He has a way of tracking the ball, whether he's facing the football or has his head away from the quarterback, which is really hard to do. But he gets his head around, and he just has a knack for tracking the ball. He felt like he should have had 2 interceptions. They would have been phenomenal catches if he did it, but knocked a couple passes away in the red zone. Emeka Ibuka still showed up. I mean, Baker made some plays. He made a great throw and catch in the red zone period to Emeka, who looks like he's been in this league for about 4 or 5 years. You guys are all going to be really impressed with what a great route runner he is, the hands that he has, how strong he is with the ball. He's going to be a very, very good player for this team for a long time. And, Mike is Mike. But defensively, and I keep harping on this, it's like that's to me, and talking to Baker Mayfield, like he feels like they're going to have to lean on their defense because of the loss of Tristan Wirfs. We talked to Baker, and he put it as well as he could. I asked him, just sort of his reaction to, finding out Tristan was going to undergo surgery this close to the start of the season or training camp, and he was like, "It sucks. The timing sucks. It sucks." And it does. And he goes, we're going to have to lean on our defense and some of the players and some of the upgrades we've made, and take care of the ball and try to find a different way to win. I mean, it's not like you can go out there and rip it, and drop back 50 times because you're not going to have that protection that you get from Tristan Wirfs. So he acknowledged that you're going to have to use other resources and get the ball out of your hands. That was the thing he was emphasizing. Is like, look, I just, my clock. You didn't say it this way, but basically his clock has to speed up a little bit and just, have an emphasis on getting rid of it before you get hit, because the protection isn't going to be the same. And to be honest with you, I'm not sure that Charlie Heck is going to be their starting left tackle. Right now he is, but they're definitely bringing guys in to work out, veteran players, just about every day. And they're going to sign one of them because you've got to have somebody to replace Charlie, who was the swing tackle. So, if Charlie goes out there in preseason or practice or one day in a game and gets hurt, who's the next guy in? And they don't really have that guy. They got some undrafted rookies and things like that. With a team like this, that they expect to go a long way or hope to go a long way. They're talking about a Super Bowl. They're talking about teams chasing them this year and them being one of the elite teams, not just a team that kind of has to rally to make the playoffs. If that's their mindset and that's where they think they are, you're going to have an experienced player, a guy you at least know what you're going to get, right? Just know what you're going to get. He may not be an all-pro, but he's got to be a pro. He's got to be somebody what you're going to get every single Sunday against that's faced some of these top edge rushers, and Charlie Heck, I mean, this is what I'll say about him. Last year, he's on the Arizona Cardinals practice squad at the end of the season, okay? Not on a regular roster. He's on their practice squad. They worked him out during the season last year after Gedeke got hurt, and they didn't sign him, right? They needed somebody, and they didn't sign him. So he's the same Charlie Heck. Well, he got plucked from the practice squad with 2 games remaining by the 49ers, who got him on like a, I don't know, Tuesday or Wednesday or whatever, and he started 3 days later for the 49ers. And he started the final 2 games of the regular season. Now, they lost both games. They played pretty good teams, as I recall, but the Niners were circling the drain at that point. They were 6-10. They finished 6-11, I think, or 7 and I think it was 6, 7 and 10, something like that. And it's yeah, he played, and he goes, I've been in these situations before. It was a lot harder, getting a call around Christmas. It was Christmas Day, I think. He got a call and said he had to go to San Francisco, and he played the last 2 games. He goes, it was fun, it was a grind, but I did it. But that's the kind of player we're talking about, right? We're not talking about a guy that has this great track record as a starter. So I think they're going to do something. I don't think they're necessarily happy or satisfied. They're saying all the right things, oh, we know Charlie will do a good job. But if you watch, I always say this, don't believe the audio, believe the video. And they're in shorts, no pads. It's a disadvantage for the offensive lineman. But I'm watching Chris Braswell and Yaya Diaby run around this guy, at times. And I don't know how much confidence they're going to have in him, to go out and start the first 4 games of the year.
Well, and this is the biggest question in training camp at this point.
Absolutely.
Like, who's going to start at left tackle for a game, 2, maybe 4 if he's on the PUP list? And
absolutely
could be even longer than that. You don't think it's going to be, and they don't think it's going to be. But then again, they didn't think he was going to be out at the beginning of the season either. So you never know how he's going to heal and how rehab goes in that. So finding who that left tackle is going to be to start this season is priority one in this training camp.
It really is, and I don't know that he's in camp. And that it could go this way too. You could have a situation where some team gets to there's a week now before the regular season and the preseason ends. There's only 3 preseason games. You got this week ramp up now before the week of the start of the regular season. So there's a cut down date in there, and it may be one of those deals where the starting tackle on this team doesn't show up until the week before the season, until after the 3rd preseason game. I could see that happening. Or you pluck a guy off somebody's practice squad that didn't make the fact is there's very few teams that have 5 great offensive linemen or good to great offensive linemen, and nobody has more than 5, right? So you're talking about veterans that are on their way down in their career. Maybe they make too much money. Maybe they've gotten beat out by somebody that was drafted high. There's any number of reasons why those guys are available, but it's not because they're the best in the game. But I think that for this team, if this team was, kind of starting out with a young quarterback, you wouldn't like it, but you might endure it if you didn't have the expectations these guys have. But, the way they're talking, and I think it's justified to some degree. They've won the division every year the last 4 years. They've done it twice with Baker. They won 9 and then 10 games. And, if they don't go into that, sort of after the second quarter swoon that they've had the last 2 years, it's a team that could win 14 games. You could win 13, 12, 13, 14 games. So if that's where you are in your program, you need to kind of listen to that and say, how do we give ourselves the best chance? And they were talking about how, well, last year Luke Gedeke got hurt against the Commanders. First game of the season, boom, he gets a concussion. And it was a bad one. It was a really bad one. He missed 4 straight games after that. I was like, well, it's not unlike, what happened with Luke, and at that time they put in Justin Scully, and the first game Scully played, Aiden Hutchinson, ate his lunch and he had 4.5 sacks, but they won the game. They won the game in Detroit because Detroit was 1 for 6 in the red zone. And somehow the defense stood up that day. But they won the game. And then, I was looking at it as like, you've been through this before. Yeah, he missed 4 games. They went 2-2. They went 2-2. And I'm here to tell you, if you had to make that deal right now, if you're the Buccaneers and say, first 4 games, we're going to win half of them, I think you make it. I think you say, we'll take 2-2 and move on,
I think, to be honest, if you take 2-2, knowing that 2 of the games are at Houston and Philly.
Correct. Well, one's home against Philly, but yeah, it's
right.
it's
home,
Atlanta, at Houston.
Yeah. But I mean, at Houston and the Philly games are the 2 toughest games, and you could see them losing each of those. I'm not saying they will.
Well, look, they didn't beat the Falcons last year, and it was last year.
Oh no,
right?
Absolutely. But I'm saying, if you went 2-2, but you beat the Falcons and go 2-2, you're okay with it. You're in an okay position.
Yeah, if you lose to 2 AFC teams, that's not going to kill you. It's not going to crush you. Or even
if you lose to Philly, it's not going to crush you.
No, probably not.
That's a defending champion. I mean,
yeah,
you don't like losing at home, but
it's your second game at home. The home opener, I guess, is what, the Jets, I think.
Yeah, yep, on the Monday night.
Yeah, and so
and the throwbacks.
And the throwbacks, they need to take care of business. Justin Fields, by the way, I guess he had a dislocated toe today. Apparently.
Yeah, dislocated toe. So he's but
day to day.
Day to day, which is better than they thought because he was carted off.
Yeah, they carted him. I know. I saw the bulletin. It's like Justin Fields carted off, and it's like, and those are out there. There's those little assassins are out there, man, behind every corner, and somebody's going to get it, But I sensed Baker's disappointment, and he tried to put the brave face on. I know how close he is to Tristan. I know how much this hurts. Just going back over that whole thing, like, if they'd have known what they knew, but the guy, like we've talked about, he didn't really report that he was having any pain. You know what I mean? Like if he was or he wasn't, they did some, they do the test on him, they do the MRI, they didn't see any damage. But that's just the nature of the guy and the position. And, he was asymptomatic. It's weird. He was asymptomatic. Then I went in there and I think I misspoke. I think I said LCL. Actually, they saw some tear in the MCL, which is what he hurt to knock him out of the game. It's just weird watching him out there. He's only a week away from surgery. He's on crutches. It's kind of surreal. But look, the good news, he's going to come back. He's going to play this season. Chris Godwin is supposed to play this season at some point. Mecca Ibuka, by the way, looks great. Him and Baker had some good moments near the red zone, and he looks like he's been playing for 4 years. And I'm excited for Bucs fans to see this guy. If they didn't watch him at Ohio State, he's just really, really good player. And like I said, Morrison, they've done a lot on defense. It's going to be, Reddick is going to be a problem for people. He is motivated. I look forward to when the pads come on. That'll be something that'll help sharpen, their offensive line, and if it's Heck or whoever's over there, will be getting, I'm sure, plenty of Yaya Diaby and Braswell and guys like that. So just 2 practices in, not a lot to report. I think, when the pads come on, you find out a little bit more about your football team. But they had a good draft, and those young kids are showing up big on defense. And that's where they needed to get better. And that's where they put the resources in the draft after Emeka. And I think it's going to pay off. And I think they're going to have a little depth at corner. I think it's great competition. They're going to have a number of guys that can really, really play. Tyke looks good at safety so far. Like I said, Winfield Jr. has been, just kind of Winfield again. And if that turns, that alone can make them a better football team on defense. But yeah, it's pretty normal training camp. Nothing exciting, nothing dramatic. These guys are, pretty confident, and they practice hard, and there's a little bit of chatter and back and forth between the offense and defense, but that's what you want. But aside from that, and then you got Desmond Watson over there on a practice field trying to lose weight, and it's just, I mean, that dude is enormous. Like I feel for him, because I remember players not that big, obviously, but I knew players that for not making weight and had to do work on the side fields and see how much they could lose, and they got a nutritionist and they got trainers running him to death, and you feel for him in that heat. But that's what it takes. He's got to get his weight down if he's going to play. So yeah, it's only 2 out of, I think there's 10 days that fans get to come, and this was day 1 that we had fans in the stands. Hey, we'll talk about the Rays and some of the moves that they're making, but first, let's have you go down to International Plaza Mall. You know where that is. I'm sure you shop there, not far from the airport, kind of between One Buck Place, if you will, and the airport. And that's where you're going to find Brightling Boutique on the 2nd floor near the center of the mall. Breitling Company has been in business for 140 years, making the best Swiss watches anywhere in the world. They've been at International Plaza now for over 5 years. Now, I want you to go in there and spend some time in this store. It's incredible. The customer service is as good as you're ever going to have it. Look, they are very used to dealing with professional athletes. I've seen Buccaneers have come in there. I'm sure Rays players, Lightning players. But here's the thing. They're going to treat you just like you're one of their celebrities too. And you want to check out the men's watches, the Chronomats, the Navatimers that they're known for. But they also have women's watches. These are sports watches. They are beautiful. They're durable. If your wife or girlfriend is on the go like mine, they're going to get a lot of use out of it. And she gets to pick from just an array of different colored wristbands. And while supplies last, that is the key here. This Brightling Boutique has the NFL watches of all 32 teams. They have promoted the 104th year anniversary of the National Football League by creating a beautiful chronomat watch for each of the 32 teams. These have, the team colors on the face of the watch. They got the team logo. If you go to TampaBay.com, you're going to see probably an ad of Brightling Boutique with a picture of the Bucs team watch. Again, it's while supplies last, but get on down there and go see our friends at Brightling Boutique. You're going to love the store. You're going to love the customer service, and you'll walk out with the best timepiece you have ever owned. Make sure you let them know that you heard about it right here on Sports Day Tampa Bay. So shortly after the game, Steven, I don't know how this happens. This seemed like it was really quick. And I guess, I mean, Taj Bradley got knocked out in the 2nd inning? You gave him like maybe 2 innings, I think, if he even got through 2. But I thought it was interesting that immediately after the game, they just announced, he's been designated for assignment. I mean, he's, going to go down to Durham and work on some things. And I guess that's the right move. I think they tried to avoid that, and it looked like he had kind of pitched better. But apparently, he is kind of a two-pitch pitcher right now, fastball and slider or curveball, whatever it is, and he needs to work on that changeup, which was kind of an out pitch for him last year when he was winning. I don't know. I'm not surprised, but I'm kind of surprised, if that makes sense. Like, they need Taj Bradley to be one of their better pitchers.
No question about it. And let's not forget how young he still is. And
how young is he?
24, I think.
Is he just 24?
Yeah, he's in that range. Like, he's not old.
Okay.
And he hasn't been pitching that long in the big leagues either.
Well, they rushed him up, I think, the first time he was here.
Right. Yeah, he is 24. So we talked about this a couple weeks prior to the All-Star game because he was struggling. And, the talk was, do they send him down? He does have options, but what would that do to him mentally? They thought,
what about his confidence?
Maybe not till the All-Star break. Well, then he made the first start out of the All-Star break and pitched fantastic.
He was great, yeah.
Right. And so then he comes out Tuesday, or was it Tuesday night or Wednesday night, whatever night it was, Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
And, well, that wasn't very good. Got a 4-run lead and then gave it all back in the second and struggled. And for them to do it immediately after the game, one, it was an off day and whatever else they want to tell him right away. But two, it meant they've been thinking about this for a while. Like, this is when we discussed it before the All-Star break, this means they were talking about it then too. But it's also showing you the sense of urgency that the Rays have right now. And one, this move is to help Taj long term. Get that changeup back so that he can become a better starting pitcher, whether it's this year, next year, whatever. But it's also a move of, we can't let him work on it up here. We've got to win games now. Like, the trade deadline's a week away. The Rangers have now caught us in the standings. We're, a game and a half out of the playoffs, and now we're tied with someone. Like you don't have time anymore. You've got to start making moves now to help this team today. And while this is a move to help Taj long term, and look, I don't think he's going to be down in Durham the rest of the season. I think he'll be back up. That's your hope, at least. But it's the sense of urgency, but it's also, we've got to give Taj time and space to figure this out.
Yeah, and I guess that's the right move. I mean, look, he still is a young player, although I'm sure it's a devastating blow to him personally.
No question.
There's just no way around that. But they got to have him. Here's the thing about the Rays right now. They're in a scary situation with this trade deadline coming up. And they've got this road trip. I think they start in Cincinnati and then go to New York. Is that right?
Yes, they're in Cincinnati tonight.
Yeah. And if they don't get off to a fast start in these first 5 games or so, like say they go 1-4, and not 4-1 or 3-2, they may have to start just becoming sellers, And I know it's nice if you can do both, if you can, both make deals that help both clubs, and maybe we get a bat or maybe get another arm, or we want to stay in, we want to stay relevant in this thing. But this road trip, man, I'm here to tell you, if they survive this, then they're tough as nails. And they really are. If they survive this road trip and then come home for 3 games against the Dodgers, right, and then go back out again, 19 of the next 22 on the road. By the time that's over, or probably long before it's over, we're going to know what the Rays are, and Eric Neander is going to know who they are or which direction he wants to go. So I think we're about a week away from finding out just whether they're contenders or sellers.
Well, that's good because the trade deadline is Thursday. So,
yeah,
any moves you want to make for this season, you've got to make in the next 6 days.
Right. Exactly.
So it's really going to be interesting what Neander does. I mean, you just lost 2 or 3 to the White Sox, but you saw back in June, or was it May, whatever, how good this Rays team can be. And it was for a long stretch. It wasn't like it was a week and a half. That was a good 4 to 5 week stretch where they were the best team in baseball. So they're capable. But do you think this team is good enough this year to compete? And then that's going to dictate what moves Eric Neander tries to make this week.
I thought they were good enough obviously, look, everybody has a hot streak in baseball. Everybody has a losing streak in baseball.
Yep.
Everybody wins 60, most everybody, and everybody loses 60. Having said that, if you don't have Brandon Lau, right? If you start getting these injuries to your everyday players as well, and then if your bullpen falters the way theirs has, you just don't have a great chance. Like they're a different lineup without him, and every year he's battled injuries at some point during the season. Now, I think he avoided them for a long time this year, but here we are. And um, they're just not it. And then Hassan Kim is another guy that could really, really help them. They spent $15 million for him, and they thought maybe we get him back in May. Maybe we would have him for the rest of from June, July, August, and he's just been. It's one thing after another injury wise, and he's frustrated. They all are, and there's only so much you can do with that. But again, the best ability is availability, and without those guys in your lineup, it just looks different. It just plays different. So they've taken turns. I mean, bullpen blew up for a good while there. Now you'll have a couple, shaky starts with Taj. This has kind of been a combination of stuff. So I don't know. It's kind of too bad, and yet I think you have to do the responsible thing and just try to make your team better. And the Rays, to their credit, have managed to straddle that line. Even when they do make trades or move players, they usually get pretty good value back.
No question about it. And they've been known to retool on the fly as well. Okay,
Mhm.
if you think starting pitching's a strength, then you can trade Zach Littell and get a hitter back because you've got Joe Boyle or Ian Seymour ready to step in. Or
Right.
they often do things like that where they've got a little bit of strength on the big club or guys ready to come up, and so deal from that to help this. And it's not a rebuild, it's not a sell off, it's a retool and try to make your team better, not only for this year but for years to come.
Right. Right. Well, I mean, I'd like to see him stay relevant. You'd like to see him have a chance to get into October. But let me ask you this: I'm trying to remember. They missed the playoffs last year, right?
Correct. That was the first time since 19
If you
or no
do
or
it
18.
twice
Yeah.
in a row, what are you now? Is the mystique over? Is the secret sauce exposed?
Well, so like you often say this with the Bucks. You missed the playoffs this year, but what happens if 3/5 of your starting rotations on the IL by August?
Yeah, tell
And
me how it happened. Right.
how did it happen? Did you miss it by one game? Did you win 89 games but miss the playoffs?
Right.
Or did you, last year you went 80 and 82? Did you finish below 500 again? That's a little different.
Mhm.
And the other part is the mystique off, but there may be big changes to this organization this offseason. If the sale goes through in September or October, whatever, who knows what this front office looks like next year? I would imagine the new owners don't want to make changes in that regard, but that doesn't mean the people that are in the front office don't want to change. And and does the new owners put more money into the payroll? So is the mystique off? I don't know if we know that yet, and I think the bigger thing will be what happens to the organization of the offseason. Because I think, look, you see the pieces on this team, Junior Caminero and Chandler Simpson. Those are two good pieces there. And Josh Lowe is still young. And then you've got young pitchers like Bradley and Pepio and Boz. And, you've got pieces. I don't think the mystique's off necessarily. They still need to add some, and we'll see what happens this offseason.
Yeah. Well, it's disappointing because I think this team had a lot of potential. They had to go through a lot, obviously, with the hurricane and the displacement and
Yeah, and who knows how
Steinbrenner.
much that impacts. Is this team just tired and hot? And
I think a lot. I think it's all that. I think
yeah,
it's all that. And look, if they were comfortable when the year began, and they clearly were not, maybe for a lot of reasons, but to lose 9 out of 11 like they did early on at Steinbrenner doesn't sound like it's not cataclysmic or anything. But considering that their schedule was so front loaded with home games, like you had to take advantage of that. You had to. And now that it's flipping on them, look, it's hot everywhere. But now that it's flipping on them, and the home games they do have are boiling, this is really tough. I think they're a tired baseball team. I think mentally it's probably been a drag on them a little bit. I'm not a big body language guy, and I think he does as good a job of any of I've seen. He's a 2-time manager of the year. But Kevin Cash looks worn out. He looks frustrated. He's obviously frustrated, but like, I don't know. I don't see the energy. Like, it's just, there's not a lot of smiles. It's fun when you win and everybody's happy, but then, it turns. And baseball, these are the dog days. They're right in the middle of the dog days. When you hit August,
the dog days, but they're not at home. They're now going to go on the road forever. They're like,
it's brutal.
This season, so if they finish 84-78 at the end of the year, don't make the playoffs, are you saying it's a failure, tear it down? Or
I don't know.
Is it there were so many extenuating circumstances that wasn't too bad, wasn't what we wanted, wasn't what we thought we could get to, but
well, considering that they began the season with none of the outfielders that wound up playing were on the roster when they broke spring training. I mean, think about that, right?
Yeah, after game 1 when Josh Lowe got hurt, the 3 starting outfielders were out.
Yeah. So I mean, they have managed to to kind of made some discoveries. Obviously, some players. Chandler Simpson really stepped up. Jake Mangum stepped up. Obviously, you're very happy about the future of Junior Caminero. I mean, there's a lot of positives on this team. I mean, Jonathan Aranda, your all-stars, right? Yandy Diaz still getting it done for you. There's so many bright spots, and yet, it just hasn't translated to consistency other than when they had that, really long winning streak and they got within like a game and a half of first place in the American League East. And then it just kind of unraveled quickly. But I don't know. Baseball's a funny sport, man. Like, literally, you can get hot. They could go on this road trip and dominate. You don't know what you don't know. We've seen the Dodgers go through losing streaks this year. Every team does, and it's not like they're kind of like winning one, lose one. But it's funny because they played down to the competition. Some of the under 500 teams are the ones they've struggled the most against, and then the ones that are over 500, they seem to be real competitive and have a good record. So. They're playing some really good teams on this road trip. Cincinnati's a good team. Obviously, the Yankees. Maybe that will, maybe they'll flip it and it'll bring out the best in them. I don't know, but we'll have to see. We'll see how the Rays do over the weekend. The Bucs are back at training camp practice. I'll be out there all weekend. Check out TampaBay.com and the Tampa Bay Times for the latest updates. The Bucs are in the process as we wrap up this podcast of signing potentially a couple offensive linemen. These are veterans. Tyler McClellan, who is a big 6'8", 355-pounder, last played for the Chargers, and also MJ Michael Jordan. That's his name. Former Bengals, Panthers, and Patriots offensive lineman. He's 27. Primarily played guard in the NFL. He started 11 games for the Patriots last year. He's going to get a look at tackle. So not exactly standing pat. If you were, with Charlie Heck. He's got some competition now with some guys that played a lot of NFL football. So check it out in the Tampa Bay Times, TampaBay.com. Thanks for listening. Go see our friends at Brightling Boutique International Plaza Mall. Check out the men's and women's watches, and make sure you let them know you heard about it on Sports Day Tampa Bay. For Steve Versnick, I'm Rick Stroud of the Tampa Bay Times. Have a great weekend, everybody.